If you or a loved one are currently getting care from somebody, or you've been considering getting care from somebody, but you're super worried about what happens if I don't like my caregiver, today's video is just for you guys.
Hi everybody, Amber here with Select Home Care again.
And I am Bryce, the director and owner. And today we are talking about what if I don't like my caregiver. Also, just for funsies, I do want to call out, we painted our recording room and it looks wonderful, if I do say so myself, as the painter. But really getting into the important stuff, right? So what happens if you're getting care or you're considering getting care and you've got this worry about what happens if I don't like my caregiver?
Yeah, and it's honestly a question, one of the first questions I get when I go in and do the evals with families, because they're very worried about, are they going to have to settle? Are they going to have to just suck it up with whoever we put in there? So I think we have a lot of useful information on how we get to that right fit.
Yep.
A lot of tools, a lot of knowledge and resources we use. And I think the biggest thing to keep in mind with this is we only spend, maybe an hour with our families, and we try to, soak up all the information we can. We ask all the right questions in order to gather that information that we can come back and then use to pair the right, the right caregiver with the client. It doesn't always work right the first time. Personalities don't always match, but we have to keep in mind that we only had a limited time with our families to gather that information.
And personalities are so complex. I mean, it's a little bit, not that anybody likes having to go back to dating, right? But it's a little bit like dating. You're dealing with two complex individuals, and sometimes you have additional factors to consider, like family dynamics, right? We see a lot of cases where maybe the caregiver and the patient fit are really good, but the family is maybe just not as receptive to the caregiver for one reason or another. The other thing to consider are things like, how does that person, play out with age, gender, those sort of things. Sometimes, especially if you're doing bathrooming care, somebody may be more or less inclined to have a female versus male caregiver. I think that we typically see, because this is another question that we get, it is far more common for us to have female caregivers than male caregivers, and those that want male caregivers get them, if that makes sense. So like, we happen to do a lot of work with the VA. The VA, a lot of veterans from that era tend to be males, and not every male, but many males prefer to have a male, and so those males get those males very quickly. Versus, a lot of females don't necessarily feel as comfortable with males, and that's okay. Especially when you're dealing with things like bathrooming, we want to be really cognizant of that, so that we're putting them in a comfortable spot. Because when you start adding in factors like memory care or or additional debilitating situations, the last thing you want is to be in a very vulnerable position with somebody that you don't trust. So we're always seeking for that trust piece and trying to weigh those factors.
Yeah, and I think factors is a really great word, because we try to pull different factors, whether it is gender, personality, skill set. Even we still honestly have to keep into consideration, schedule availability. Do you need someone morning, night, or overnight? But we have an outlook that, you're not going to get the caregiver in trouble if you don't like your caregiver. If it's not a personality fit, it's not a personality fit. We don't, put that on the caregiver whatsoever. Something to keep in mind as well is, if you really enjoy your caregiver, personality-wise they're a great fit, maybe they don't make the bed really great, or they're not great at cooking. Those hard skills are something we absolutely can work on our caregiver with in order to keep that good personality fit with you. If they're a great task manager, they make a great bed, they make a great, stew, but they just don't click personality-wise, just, they rub you the wrong way. We can't always fix that. People's personalities are who they are. So that's the time that you really want to reach out to us right away, because we're not going to send that same caregiver back to you once you express, that they're not a great fit. We're going to try somebody new.
Yeah, and again, there's this whole spectrum with it, right? So there's a difference between, I like Susie, I like John, whoever your caregiver is, but they just don't click with mom as well as I'd hoped, or they're just a little on the quiet side, or even the opposite, right? They're a little too talkative. There's the I don't super love this, or I don't know that this is the right fit, versus, hey, I had John or Susie come in today, and my gosh, my mom or dad felt so uncomfortable the entire time. They were squirming in their seat, and they could not have been more uncomfortable. I can't have them back in my house, right? There's a whole difference between those two situations and how companies handle those situations, right?
Right.
So I can speak, from the operations side, if I get that call that, that there's that mismatch of personalities, the first thing I'm going to try to figure out is it salvageable, right? So that goes back to, are we talking about a hard skill issue, or are we talking about a soft skill issue? And hard skill issues, it's relatively simple. Send somebody out to train them, no harm, no foul.
Right.
And again, no one's in trouble in that situation. Same with the soft skill situation. Mismatches are just a part of life sometimes.
Yeah.
But but then the next step is, okay, what about that person or that situation did you not like? Because my next hope is, what can I do to fix that for the next person coming in, right? That's, I think, the key that we don't always, somebody is so worried about, they're a great person, they're just not right for me, or they're just not right for my family member. But again, we want to know what would have been the right fit, because not only are we going to learn more about that caregiver, but we're going to also learn more about you as a family member, so that we know the next time that, hey, Susie's too talkative, right?
Yeah.
Mom doesn't like to be talked to that much. She just wants some peace and quiet. Or, John is a little too aggressive in telling, Dad how to do things. Dad wants to take charge. And those are things that we can coach them on in a positive way to get them where they need to be and to be better for the next family.
Yeah, absolutely. And take all this information, because I think we want to put you at ease that it's okay if you don't like your caregiver. We never want to put anyone in your house that's going to make you or your loved one uncomfortable. So that is something that you have a complete open communication with us about, and we'll resolve the problem as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and a final thought on that. I mean, keep in mind that this street goes both ways, right? It's not just about what happens if you don't like your caregiver, right? There may be instances where a caregiver feels like they're being either underutilized in a case, or maybe they feel like they're being taken advantage of by a family in a case, and we may provide some coaching back to families as well about some of those things. And again, there can be just as much of a personality mismatch from a caregiver to a family as a family to a caregiver.
Yeah.
And it's not just all about the families. If we find that when you have a caregiver who loves their family, you have a family who loves their caregiver, the level and quality of care is so much higher than when somebody's just clocking in, clocking out, they dread going to that patient's house. I mean, it makes a drastic difference. And so that's really where we try to find that sweet spot. So it's not just, does family like caregiver, it's also, does caregiver like family? And then when we find that, we hold on to that for dear life. Those are the cases that go on 3, 4, 5 years with the same caregiver.
Consistency is key at that point, when we find the right one, for sure.
Yeah.
So remember to visit us on all our social media sites, Facebook, LinkedIn, our website, on the page. And here's a really great question for you guys. So what is a very important quality that you look for in a caregiver that's coming into your home to care for your loved one? What's a quality that you really look for in something like that?
Let us know in the comments below, and we will respond.